The Habdome's air recyclers hummed their eternal song when Arya Nolan stumbled through the reinforced entrance, her enviro suit torn across the shoulder. 3 steps. That was all she managed before her knees buckled and she collapsed face first onto the metallic floor. The Varani cubs froze. There were 7 of them in the common area, younglings barely past their first molt, their iridescent scales still soft and their tails thin as wire. They had been playing some incomprehensible game involving magnetic stones when the human returned early from her surface expedition. Now they stared at her motionless form with wide, golden eyes. "Nolan, teacher?" whispered Pip, the smallest. No response. Just the wheeze of labored breathing. Cub Dravi was the first to move. He was the eldest at 4 solar cycles, his scales beginning to show the deep cobalt that marked his family line. While the others chittered in panic, Dravi's mind raced through everything Arya had taught them about human physiology. Humans were fragile. Everyone knew this. But they were also stubborn, brilliant, and according to Galactic Council records, impossibly resilient when properly motivated. "Medical scanner," Dravi said, his voice cracking but firm. "We need the medical scanner." "It's in the lab," Kessa squeaked. 3 corridors away." "Adults won't come fast enough," Dravi calculated aloud. The Varani settlement was vast, and most adults were in the deep mines or agricultural domes. The emergency beacon would summon help, but Arya's breathing was getting worse. Humans needed oxygen, lots of it, and whatever had torn her suit had likely compromised her intake. Dravi slapped the emergency panel, then turned to his clutchmates. "Pip, Kessa, bring blankets. Humans lose heat fast. Oro. Mez, stay with her. Tell me if she stops breathing. The rest come with me." He didn't wait for agreement. Dravi bolted toward the lab, his claws clicking against the floor. Behind him, 3 other cubs followed, their small legs pumping furiously. The medical scanner was a beautiful piece of technology, a portable unit designed for multi-species diagnostics. It was also designed for adult hands. The device was half as tall as Dravi, and easily 3 times his mass. "We can't carry that," gasped Tren, staring at it. "We can." Dravi's jaw set in a very human expression of determination, something he'd learned from watching Arya refuse to give up on them during algebra lessons. "Get underneath. Push together." The Galactic Council had protocols for this. Regulations. The scanner was expensive, sophisticated, meant to be handled by trained medical personnel. Cubs weren't supposed to touch it, much less haul it through corridors. Dravi grabbed one end. Now, 4 young Varani strained against the weight. The scanner groaned on its anti-grav supports, which had been deactivated for maintenance. Slowly, painfully slowly, they began to move it. "She taught us about levers," Dravi panted as they maneuvered around a corner. "And persistence. And never leaving crew behind." "Humans are crazy," Tren muttered, but he pushed harder. They were crazy. Everyone in the galaxy knew it. Humans had arrived in known space barely 2 generations ago, their ships held together with what they called duct tape and hope. They took risks that made Varani admirals faint. They ate things that would poison most species. They befriended predators and competed with their own young for sport. But they also did something no other species quite managed. They made you believe you could do the impossible. Arya had arrived on the Varani colony 6 months ago as part of a cultural exchange. She was supposed to teach basic math and galactic history. Instead, she'd taught the cubs about Earth's literature, shown them videos of humans doing ridiculous things like skateboarding and free climbing, and repeatedly demonstrated that limitations were just suggestions. "Almost there," Dravi called. They rounded the final corner. Ahead, they could see the common area where Pip had covered Arya with 3 thermal blankets. The human was shivering now. Good. That meant her body was still fighting, but her lips had taken on a bluish tint that Dravi remembered from the safety videos. With one final coordinated push, they got the scanner beside her. Dravi's claws trembled as he activated it. He'd watched the medical techs use it before, had studied the interface during one of Arya's "Curiosity is not a crime" free study periods. The holographic display flickered to life. "Scanning," the device announced in flat galactic standard. Red indicators bloomed across the hologram. oxygen deprivation, punctured lung, internal bleeding. The prognosis wasn't good. But their treatment protocols. The scanner could do more than diagnose. It had emergency medical capabilities. Dravi's claws flew across the controls, authorizing treatments that he barely understood. Nanosealant for the lung. Oxygen boost. Coagulant for the bleeding. Will it work? Kessa whispered. It has to, Dravi said. The scanner hummed, extending articulated arms that began working on Arya's injuries. The cubs watched in terrified silence as the machine did what they could not. 5 minutes later, adult Varani burst into the common area, their scales flushed with alarm colors. They stopped short at the scene. 7 cubs clustered around their human teacher. A medical scanner running unauthorized protocols. And against all odds, a stabilizing patient. "What have you done?" demanded Elder Thrask, his voice caught between horror and awe. Dravi looked up, his golden eyes fierce. "What she taught us to do. We didn't wait for permission. We didn't say it was impossible. We just did it." Arya's eyes fluttered open. Her voice was barely a whisper, but unmistakably amused. "Good. Cubs. Knew you. Were paying attention. Good." Later, after the proper medics had taken over and Arya was sleeping in the medical bay, the colony administrator tried to lecture the cubs about protocols and safety regulations. But his hearts weren't in it. How could they be? The cubs had hauled a medical scanner themselves. They'd performed emergency treatment. They'd saved a life. They'd done what humans do. And in doing so, they'd learned the most important lesson Arya Nolan had ever taught. That being small doesn't mean being helpless. That rules serve people rather than the reverse. And that sometimes the most important thing you can do is refuse to accept that something can't be done. The galaxy called humans crazy, but as Cub Dravi settled into his nest that night, his scales still buzzing with adrenaline, he thought maybe crazy was just another word for brave, and maybe, just maybe, it was contagious.